welcome back. It's time for another book talk. I know it's Writer Wednesday, but sometimes I do bonus book talks on Writer Wednesday instead. Today, I'm talking about the original. It's a novella by Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal. As far as I understand, it is exclusively available as an audio book, so I don't think you're going to be able to get a physical copy of this book to read. It's a really interesting story. I give it 3 out of 5 stars, and I just want to be clear, 3 out of 5 stars still means that I enjoyed the story and that I would recommend that you read it. It just means that it did not reach the level of awesomeness or phenomenality, as I like to say. Phenomenality. It was still a good read. The story is about a woman who wakes up and she is basically a clone created from an original human body, and she is told that something has happened with the original person, and she has a week to hunt down the original human and kill her. It's a really interesting game to play in society, but it's set in the future in which there's all kinds of nanite technology that has really changed the foundation of society so that people can still die, but there are all kinds of things that the nanites can do with renewal stations and to make your life better, repairing stuff. But within that is the potential web for government surveillance. So really I think that the book is probably somewhat of an allegory or metaphor what's going on in our world with government surveillance these days, and perhaps a warning that the more that we allow ourselves to be dominated by technology, that the more likely we're going to have to deal with Big Brother and the overarching potential government conspiracies with government surveillance. One of the reasons that I give the book 3 out of 5 stars and not a higher rating is just because the story doesn't necessarily feel that original to me, and I know that's ironic considering that the title of the story is the original, but that's because you're dealing with a clone tracking down the original person. But you've seen this story done before in various sci-fi movies and stories where there's a clone that has to hunt down the original person. I personally don't like the premise that someone could wake up as a clone and be told that they have a week to track down and kill the original person. And the options are either the clone kills the original person and then gets to take over the person's life and live the good life, or if the clone fails at the mission, then the clone will be killed. And that seems really harsh to me, the way that it is set up, but that's the premise of the story. And of course, to me, it was really obvious from the beginning. There were plenty of clues with foreshadowing that the clone's not just dealing with trying to figure out why the original person would commit murder and thus have to be hunted down and killed in the first place and replaced, but also trying to figure out what's really going on with the government. It is interesting to have the multiple factions, to have the idea that the clone can't trust the government as well as really trust anyone around to figure out what's going on. And then when the clone finds the original, whether or not the clone would be able to trust the original person. But I did really enjoy the point of view of the clone and the way that the clone insisted, I'm not the type of person who would commit murder. You know, the point at which the memories were stored from this person's life. The clone was very insistent of, I think the original is innocent because it doesn't sound like me. You know, like I would not commit a murder for really any reason. It was fascinating for the clone to go through that, but then be sent on a mission of, you need to murder the original. It's a fascinating conundrum. I do appreciate that Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal worked together and produced this, to me, really short story novella, and that they were able to put it together as an audiobook. I assume it's an experiment by them, probably for the sake of marketing and publishing in the future, to see how that a book does if it's only released as an audiobook and how an audience responds to that. I hope you've enjoyed the book talk today. I do encourage you to read the story for yourself. You might enjoy it even more than I did. You might give it 4 or 5 stars. Who knows? Every day is a good day for a book talk. Peace.